In response to the news that the long-standing bequests to the font have run dry, a group of enterprising League merchants have come up with some novel ideas for how the power of the conclave might be preserved. Coincidentally, the Houlier, who dwell within the Reykjavesi, have offered a somewhat similar proposal to improve cooperation with the people of Wintermark. At the same time, the landkeepers of the Marches have responded relatively positively to the decision of the Imperial Conclave to keep Rivers Run Red and similar rituals interdicted, at least for the time being. They have several proposals, including one that would allow Marcher yeomen to produce manna from their farms, if they choose. League motions propose supporting the Grandmasters with a convenient source of additional crystal manna. If the Senate completed the project, each Grandmaster's ministry would be updated to provide more manna for the same price. The Grandmaster of each conclave order has access to a supply of manna purchased on their behalf by the civil service. Much of this manna is bought from manna sites from old estates scattered across the Empire. Although these options allow the Grandmasters to acquire significant quantities of manna, the reality is that the returns are relatively poor. In many cases, they are dependent on investments made decades ago. The truth is that Imperial command of magic has come on in leaps and bounds since those days, so there is capacity for significant improvement in the returns given the prices paid. Nowhere is this truer than the cities of the League, which have bustling markets where manna is bought and sold. All four of the great cities benefit from one of Lorenzo's legacies, but Tasato, Savos and Temeshwar also boast impressive exchanges, built to ensure a steady trade in crystals between inhabitants and visitors of those cities. Ambitious merchants in Tasato have demonstrated that with only a relatively modest expansion to the 3 exchanges, they could be well placed to support the conclave. It would require an investment of mithril to enhance the production, but in return, they would guarantee to provide the civil service with first refusal on the purchase of the excess manna. That would enable the Grand Masters to purchase manna at a significantly improved rate. The proposal from the League merchants requires a single Senate motion to authorise the expansion of all 3 exchanges. The merchants are keen to tap into the lucrative trade supporting the conclave, so they are prepared to provide a number of skilled architects and builders from their own ranks to support the civil service. As a result, the expansion would require only a single commission 60 wains of mithril and 120 crowns to build. Once construction was complete, the network would allow the civil service to purchase more manna for the same amount of money. A manna exchange in Holberg could be built specifically to support the War Mage or Bursar of the Conclave. A grand manna exchange could be built to support both titles. The city of Holberg, proud home of Empress Lizabetta, is the only city in the League that is not currently home to a manna exchange. There seems to be no particular reason for this. The city is every bit as affluent as its rivals, but it seems to have been overlooked. There is still manna to be had here. The brazen, idolatrous legacy of loyalty sees to that. If a suitably large exchange were constructed here, then it would provide a valuable additional source of manna to the civil servants carrying out the conclave's wishes. The burghers of the city suggest that these could be provided to support the War Mage or the Bursar of the conclave, whichever the Senate preferred. This would allow whoever the conclave appointed to the chosen title to purchase manna, as the Grand Masters do now. This would either help the Bursar with their current responsibilities to raise resources to support the conclave, or would directly benefit the military council by allowing the War Mage to acquire manna directly for use in important military rituals. The manna exchange would need a Senate motion and a commission, and would require a total of 25 wains of mithril and 50 crowns to build. But it would provide returns identical to those listed for the Grand Masters. As part of the Senate motion, the Senate would need to name either the War Mage or the Bursar to specify which title would be responsible for the ministry. Alternatively, if sufficient mithril could be found, then the Senate could commission a great exchange using 50 wains of mithril and 100 crowns. It could have an office for the war mage at the end of the exchange and another for the bursar near the entrance. It would far outshine the exchanges in either Temeshwar, Tasato or Savos, but it would mean that the war mage and the bursar could then purchase mana. To do so would require 2 Senate motions, however, one to construct the exchange and amend either the bursar or the war mage, and then a second to amend the other title to allow it to benefit from the exchange. Marcher farm owners have a special diversification option while Rivers Run Red remains interdicted. The miners of the Moonworld have a proposal for the Silver Chalice Order. Landskeeper Shem is bringing a proposal to present to the throne. News of the recent developments in the Conclave have reached the Marchers and caused considerable concern. There is understandable alarm that barely 2 years since this deadly curse was used to slay thousands of helpless Imperial citizens, people are seeking to use it again. Fortunately, the Landskeepers are able to calm the angry sentiments. They point out that the declaration was defeated, and with the help of the Empress, no less. In gratitude for the work done to keep the ritual interdicted, the Landskeepers have offered to help create new powerful dolmens for any yeoman who is prepared to cover the costs. As long as Rivers Run Red remains interdicted by the Imperial Conclave, any Marcher character that owns a farm in Marcher territory will be able to diversify it to produce mana. It will cost the owner 1 throne each time they diversify in this way, and they'll lose 30 rings of income as a result, but the farm will produce 1 crystal mana for each level of this diversification. The Landskeepers make it clear that the help will be withdrawn if the Conclave remove the interdiction. The option to build new dolmens would disappear, although any dolmens already built, any diversification that was complete, would be unaffected. In addition, the miners of Moonworld have an additional offer to make to the Grand Master of the Silver Chalice. If Conclave will pass a declaration of concord, confirming that the view of the Conclave is that no Imperial magician should ever use curses to slay Imperial citizens, then they will provide a permanent bequest to the Order. 6 mine owners have pledged their support, so if a suitably worded declaration is passed, then the Order will receive 4 ingots of green iron, 2 ingots of welt silver, and 1 ingot of tempest jade each season. Among those who understand magic, there has been much discussion of the claim that Rivers Run Red is essential as a method to combat rivers of life. Most Landkeepers have only a passing familiarity with the Valorn, so few can understand why anyone would want to cancel the effects of rivers of life. However, from their knowledge of magic, they seem scornful of the idea that the only way that might be achieved is using the most dreadful curse in Imperial law. It is a rare lock that has only 1 key, as the saying goes. They have nominated Shem to head to Anvil to make their argument. According to those who have spoken with him, he intends to seek out the Imperial offices early on the Friday night. Given the leadership the Imperatrix has shown on the issue, the Landskeepers hope that she, or one of her advisors if she's busy, will look at the proposal they've come up with. The Hulier of Semersuak suggests the creation of a floating hall on the Rikivesi that will serve as a meeting place between the Seal folk and their Suak cousins. Since the invasion of Semersuak by the Yotun, Hulier have been seen in greater numbers on the banks of the Rikivesi and Calavesa, as well as the northern lakes in Brookland and Hanmark. The Seal shifters have no love for the Yotun, and many have retreated in the face of their advance. Those who talk with them say they plan to return north to their homes once fighting in Semersuak is over. The Hulier have no interest in open battle with the Yotun, but they are keen to see the Mark victorious and the Orcs driven back. While they will not fight, they're prepared to support their cousins in other ways, especially when they learn that the Empire has recognised them as a people in their own right, being their interpretation of the clause in the Liberty Pact defines the nature of a person. They are in no doubt that it is the folk of Wintermark they have to thank for this odd honour. If the Empire will construct a sizable hall, but built on a platform of wood so that it'll float, then the Hulier will moor the structure on the banks of the Rikivesi. The Winterfolk should then appoint a Suak merchant from among their number to be named mediator of the Hulier Hall. The hall will provide a meeting ground between the Suak and the Hulier, as well as the other people of the Mark, allowing them to trade. The Hulier will bring fish, as well as crabs and eels taken from the lake's bed, looking to trade them for iron knives and similar tools that are in short supply among their people. Such a trade is of little interest to the heroes of the Mark, but food is not the only thing that the Hulier can take from the lake. Often they find mana crystals formed amid the muds and plants in the deepest parts of the lake. They have more than enough mana for their own use, but they would be prepared to sell it to the mediator for a fair price. The Hulier insist that the Hulier Hall must float on a lake, not be built by the banks of a lake, and not even on stilts. They also insist that the mediator must be Suak. The civil service advised that the position of Hulier mediator could be a Wintermark national position, meaning that only a Wintermark citizen could hold the title, but that no constitutional method exists to restrict the title so that only a Suak may stand. However, they are quick to point out that this should pose no problem. Depending on how the title is appointed, whoever chooses can ensure they only pick a Suak mediator in good standing. The Imperial Senate could commission the Hall of the Hulier with an appropriately worded Senate motion. It would require 12 wains of wayward and 24 crowns, but could be commissioned using a wayleave if required. The most common way to choose the Hulier mediator would be by appointment by the bourse, but other constitutional methods would be possible if preferred. Given the Hulier's clear interest in having a mediator take the role, they may well prefer someone with whom they can discuss issues or grievances, in which case appointment by the Wintermark Assembly or by the senators might be preferable.